What's up? Let me see what news things to watch for today.
Chance to sign a peace deal, but the US president not placing a deadline on negotiations, saying it's because he's not on the ballot in November's midterm elections. He also calls Iranian leaders unbelievably duplicitous as he and Iranian officials dispute his account that talks between the countries are underway. Iran today threatened to strike American warships if the US naval blockade reimposed last month continues. Well, Lena Treen connecting us from the White House. Unbelievably duplicitous is how Donald Trump then describes the Iranians. A source regionally told me yesterday that the US, Iran and Oman are in discussions. Not clear whether those are direct negotiations, though, between the US and Iran at this point. What are you hearing there?
Yeah, I've been catching up with my White House sources here, Becky. And look, part of the reason you heard the president use that language yesterday, saying that Iran is incredibly duplicitous, is I was told by one White House official that he was fuming yesterday when he was seeing all of the reports from the Iranians essentially arguing that, no, they had no plans to move forward with talks and negotiations on this, and that, Iran was saying that they were solely having these negotiations with the Omanis. White House officials argue that's just not the case. What they told me, and of course, as we've seen throughout this entire war, Becky, a lot of this is, you get one version of events from the U.S. side, another version of events from the Iranians, but they argue that there was a huge uptick in reach out from the Iranians and from different officials, people like the foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, to U.S. officials directly throughout the weekend, trying to solve particularly this issue on the Strait of Hormuz. I do want to note that the latest we've heard on a potential deal is coming from the Qataris today, a spokesperson for the Qatari Foreign Ministry, arguing that there are drafts of a potential agreement that are being circulated and that all parties are in discussions here. But from the president's view, he's willing to see how this goes. I think from the conversations I've been having, he's very much in a wait and see kind of place and posture right now. He does, of course, his ultimate goal, which has been the same goal really from the beginning, is he wants there to be some sort of long-term permanent deal to both reopen the strait, have free flow of traffic through that key waterway, and also a deal on nuclear. The issue has been, of course, can they actually get there, particularly after the strikes we've seen exchanged between both countries in recent weeks, really continuing to chip away at the lack of trust between these two countries. There's also a different issue that's been developing here in Washington, Becky, which is there are many people, and White House officials acknowledge this in my conversations with them, many people in the intelligence community that aren't confident that the Iranians will ever agree to a deal or ever honor any sort of commitments that they might make. And so that's adding to this as well. The president, for his part, though, wants to give diplomacy a chance, but he's also reserving the right to continue with attacks if needed. So unclear where this leads, but I know currently they're optimistic that there will be some sort of announcement regarding the strait in the coming days.
A cargo vessel reported being struck by an unknown projectile in the Strait of Hormuz. You can see where it happened right there, just north of Oman. It lost power, forcing the vessel to request immediate assistance. The status of the crew at this point, unknown. As far as oil prices, they are a little bit down this morning. Trying to get a sense up a little bit now. If we just stay here, they'll go down again. We just watch them move. But right now, more or less flat as we begin the day. CNN senior business reporter David Goldman is with us now. Just in general here, it's still a somewhat tenuous situation.
Yeah, here we go again, right? And, it's interesting because you mentioned oil prices are down, they're up, they're down, they're up. 8 times since the beginning of the war, President Trump has done this. He has said, you know what, I'm going to call off this massive attack. We're going back to the negotiating table, and oil has plunged. And it's interesting, even after that ship was struck, you're not really seeing oil up that much. WTI, American oil, is down. Why is this going on? It's like the president who cried peace, right? Well, let me take you through the foggy mists of time, John, back to June. The Red Sox were 14 games under 500, and oil was down below its pre-war level. This is the same phenomenon that the oil market recognizes, right? As much as Trump is saying over and over and over the same exact thing, they recognize that it doesn't take much to get oil all the way back down to $70 a barrel again, because we might be in the same situation where oil starts coming through the strait, and then all of a sudden there's way too much oil, and not the situation that we're in right now where we're trying to get oil through the strait. They don't want to be left holding the bag. That's the situation.
It really is interesting, though, that why they would think this time is different than the one before, or the one before, or the one before, or the one before.
That's it, right? Exactly. I mean, it's kind of like fool me 8 times, shame on me. But this is the thing that they're concerned about, is that he only needs to be right once. He was right in June. Yep. Oil fell through the floor, and they don't want to be caught in that same situation again if they're long oil, if they think that oil is going to go up.
That's a really good way of putting it. He only needs to be right once here. David Goldman, thank you very much for that analysis. And we like the trade?
I think we like the trade. I'm excited about that.
Adley Rutschman, newscaster for the Boston Red Sox. Thank you very much. Sarah.
All right. President Trump warning that Iran has, quote, a last chance to sign a deal with the U.S. to end the war. But he also says there are no time constraints on negotiations, as you just heard from David and John there.
This is at least the 5th time that you've turned off airstrikes against Iran since April to negotiate. What is your message to the American people who are wondering what has changed this time? Why should it be any different?
Well, you don't know. I don't know. I think we're going to maybe get something, but I want to give them every last chance before decapitation. Very tough to do what we have planned, still planned. We'll see what happens.
Iran says it is only focused on negotiations with Oman over the Strait of Hormuz, and that its goal in these talks is to establish a safe temporary route for vessels through the critical waterway, which Iran would control. CNN's Layla Gargazlu joining me now from London. What are you learning as you watch these negotiations where you have President Trump saying, hey, we have plenty of time here, but Iran is going its own way, seeming to sort of walk away from the U.S. and head.
Let me watch this Ukraine video.
Russia and Ukraine are trading blame after a drone hit a black. We'll say at least 7 people were killed when a Ukrainian drone went down on this crowded beach. They say 4 of the victims were children. A regional governor claims the casualties were caused when debris from a drone fell. Ukraine says the drone was brought down by Russian air defenses. And in a separate incident, a man in Kherson, Ukraine, was chased by a drone. I want to warn you that this video is also disturbing. Ukrainian officials are calling this a Russian war crime. The man survived with several injuries. Ukrainian officials say the man is a street vendor, not a combatant. Let's bring in CNN's Claire Sebastian, joining us live now from London. This took place in the city of Kherson. You see this drone attack basically targeting a market street vendor. Just walk us through what happened here.
Yeah, so the first thing to say, Zain, is that he survived. He was then talking about the incident several hours later. He was injured, he said that during that incident, he gestured to the drone to try and show it that he was only selling vegetables. And interestingly, he also said that this was the second time he had actually had to try to avoid a targeted drone attack. President Zelensky has come out and said that this is an example of a tactic that we saw emerge around mid-2024, what he calls a human safari by Russia, essentially drones seeming to target unarmed civilians out in the open. Now, Russia regularly says, of course, that it doesn't target civilians. We have reached out to the Russian Ministry of Defense on this incident and haven't heard back. Of course, this is a pretty disturbing incident. You can see the aftermath there, video released by the Ukrainian authorities in that incident. But again, look, the man survived, a lucky escape here. But I think this sheds light on the situation in Kherson. This is really the biggest Ukrainian city that sits on the front line. It's separated only by the Dnieper River from the Russian forces. They are under near constant attack. Drone nets cover the streets in the city. This is life here, and it's getting increasingly dangerous as Russia tries to push forward and if not take more territory. Obviously, it lost Kherson when Ukraine liberated it in late 2022. It's trying to make life as difficult as possible for civilians still in this area. Dane?
And also another attack, this time Ukrainian drone apparently targeting a beach at a Black Sea resort. Just walk us through what happened. We understand that about 3 children were killed in this attack.
yeah, I mean, big picture of these two incidents show together that civilians are increasingly paying the price for this war. This was what the Russian authorities in the Krasnodar region where this took place are saying was debris from a falling drone. The toll is now up to 7 people killed, quite a number of injuries as well, 4 of them children, according to the Russian Children's Rights Commissioner, talking about this today. The Russians are saying that this is terrorism by Ukraine. Point of fact is that they've spent most of the war calling Ukraine a terrorist state, so this sort of bolsters that argument. But they do also say it was falling debris that caused this. And now the Ukrainian side, we've heard from the head of the Center for Countering Disinformation, part of the Ukrainian government, saying that this was the work of Russian air defenses. So it isn't at this point exactly clear what happened here, but this is in the context of Ukraine escalating long-range attacks across Russia. This is a tactic that we've really seen building over the summer since they announced this 40-day campaign to try to turn around the war. Targets have started evolving into different areas. And I think, look, it is clear as these attacks escalate, the risk to civilians is going up.
All right, Claire Sebastian, Life for Stat, thank you so much.
We have new video in showing what Ukrainian officials say amounts to another war crime committed by Russia. A warning before we show you, the video is disturbing, and the man you will see here did survive, but did suffer several injuries. Yes, this is in Kherson in the southern part of the country. Ukrainian officials say that the man is a street vendor, showed no signs of being a combatant, but you saw what happened to him with that drone there. Again, he survived, suffered a concussion and blast trauma. This attack comes as it appears Ukraine's war strategy is shifting. Along with hitting military sites and oil refineries in Russia, in the past 2 weeks, according to a CNN analysis, there have been 16 long-range strikes on facilities linked to an online shopping company called Wildberries. It's Russia's equivalent, if you will, of Amazon. Joining me now for more on this, CNN contributor and former CNN Moscow bureau chief Jill Doherty. It's good to see you, Jill. Ukraine says that Wildberries, this company, that it was selling military equipment and sanctioned drone components. What do you think of this move by Ukraine?
Well, it's effective for the Ukrainians. You'd have to say that. I mean, hitting all of those hubs for this, kind of Russian version of Amazon is really important because this is a huge company. And what the Ukrainians are saying is that civilians who have relatives in the fight or people who are in the fight in the Russian army are actually going online and ordering things that are components, you could say military components. I mean, helmets, jackets, flak jackets, electronic components. And this is why the Ukrainians have decided to hit them. And of course, it creates a lot of havoc because this is part of the supply chain, not only, militarily, you could say, but certainly civilians. So it's really hurting them. And I think, just a shock factor of having these outlets and transit hubs being hit is really a factor psychologically in Russia right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also hitting at Russia's, continued expanding war economy too. And then there's also what can only be described as more confusion over President Trump's promises when it comes to Ukraine. Earlier this month, Trump had announced, and everyone took note, that the U.S. was going to allow Ukraine to build its own Patriot missile systems. That the U.S. would share the tech so they could make these critically important defensive weapons. And now the president has said this is not what he agreed to. The quote to reporters was, it's a hard thing to give away that kind of technology. And he also said because there was a risk that, quote unquote, those people you give the technology, they could someday turn on you. I mean, you can imagine the frustration of Ukraine's leadership on this, but Russia hears that and thinks what?
Yeah, just Ukrainian hit some warehouse. I was hearing. Yeah, I went to the restroom real fast. I might just mute my mic. Come back. I'll be back. Check the house video. I have to go do something real fast. I might just mute myself and turn off my. Oh, hi, buddy. What's up? I'm back. I just was. I went to go do something real fast. I guess I'm gonna watch his Weeders news. Weeders news. Sorry, I can't even pronounce the name. I'm gonna just watch this video. Cuba's national grid.
The problem with the national electrical system has become something normal here in the country because it goes down every day. We are living with an hour and a half, 3 hours, 4 hours of electricity, then 24, 36, 40 hours without power here in the capital, which is unheard of anywhere else in the world.
Inaudito, en ningún país del mundo se vive así.
And the people are not asking for much. All people are asking for is a little clarity. Give us electricity so that our food doesn't spoil.
Para que las cosas no se echen a perder.
How do you think a person can live without water, without electricity, without anything? Look over there. Look all around Havana. The only ones celebrating are those having a birthday. Beyond that, nobody in Havana is happy. Everyone is fed up. Look, how do you think anyone can live like this? You just got home from work. Go and cook something for your kids. See if you can. The kids have to go to bed without eating until tomorrow.
Yeah, very sad situation in Havana or in Cuba. Yeah. I don't know if I should watch AP News. Nah, they're gonna hit me with the. I must see what AP News has on that thing. I'm not gonna watch any of the AP News stuff. Because that's sad about the Spokane fires. They arrested the guy. Washington fires.
Motive shop.
We begin in Washington state, where police have made an arson arrest in connection with one of the wildfires, forcing people from their homes. Aaron Farinacci, a 37-year-old who lives in Spokane, is charged in connection with the Old Trails fire. That's the largest of 3 wildfires burning through the Spokane area right now. Some 67,000 people are under evacuation orders, with hundreds of buildings burned to the ground in what Washington Governor Rob Ferguson called a nightmare situation. CBS News' Bradley Blackburn is following this story for us and kicks off our hour. Bradley, good morning. Tell us about this arrest.
Errol, these pictures are just devastating, right? We know that investigators began investigating Farinacci after he was spotted by a witness who reported seeing him kneeling near grass where the fire began. That witness said he looked nervous. He was released after initial questioning, but the major crimes team later circled back to him and determined the fire had started where he was seen kneeling. The Spokane County Sheriff said when Farinacci was detained, he was in possession of some waterproof matches and a butane lighter. The sheriff added Farinacci has a prior manslaughter conviction in Arizona. He will appear in court today, and he's being held on a $1 million bond. The fires began on Saturday and quickly ripped through Spokane neighborhoods in what is known as the wildland-urban interface. Those are areas where human structures sit on the edge of or within the wilderness. When our Chris Van Cleve asked a firefighter just how intense these blazes were, he compared them to some of the most devastating wildfires of recent years.
I would say this is the caliber of the campfire in Paradise in 2018, the car fire.
President Trump says it's Iran's, quote, last chance to make a peace deal with the U.S. as he and Tehran send mixed messages on the current state of negotiations. President Trump said talks were set to begin yesterday, but U.S. officials told CBS News no new discussions were planned. Iran has insisted it's not talking with the U.S. directly. After threatening more strikes yesterday, the president said he hopes officials in Tehran will, quote, come to their senses.
So they called me and they said, please don't attack. We'll make a deal. Iran knew it. They knew what was coming. It was going to come last night, and it would have gone on for a long time, and there'd be essentially very little left. There'd be nothing left.
CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi joins us now from our DC bureau. Olivia, good morning. Great to see you. So viewers will feel that this is familiar. I think it's the fifth time we've heard both a threat of annihilation from the president and then that there will be talks instead. Fact check this all for us. What's going on here? Where do talks really stand?
Well, good morning, Errol. It's good to... Wait. This is...
I think maybe I'm gonna end the stream. Cheers, everyone. I'm gonna end the stream. I'm starting to get kind of bored, and yeah, I'm just starting to get kind of bored of streaming right now. So I watched some news. I'm gonna get off for the day. Cheers. Quick little video. I'm gonna upload this video to YouTube. Like and subscribe to Hector's Politics. I used to be Hector's News and Politics, but the name was too long. Hector Politics. I'm gonna end the video. Yeah, free Slavi, Ukraine, and hopefully Iran comes to the table with the USA to open up the Strait of Hormuz. I'm gonna end the video. Cheers, everybody. Have a nice week.